is 9 to noon from the Minnesota Vikings practice facility, courtesy of Soukup and Soukup.com. It's Paul Allen. Nordo produces on site. Max Fuller guides the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN in the 651 Carpets Plus studios. And before we get to the lesson at hand, ladies and gentlemen, we have an update on a cracking story that we broke yesterday. It wasn't a breaking story we cracked. It was a cracking story that we broke. In potentially a similar way, a red-hot bird squad with some bird seed cracked against Arizona last season and lost the first playoff game. The Philly Fracture actually was advanced on the radio in Philadelphia yesterday as 9 to noon was discussing some strange comments following a victory over the Carolina Panthers from the likes of Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and wide receiver Devontae Smith. Now, super well-respected veteran Brandon Graham said this about the scenario. Quarterback Jalen Hurts and wide receiver A.J. Brown. Appearing on WIP Radio, it's a flamethrower in Philadelphia. That's a day after this from ProFootballTalk.com. PFT, you know we. WIP Radio in Philadelphia, a day after Brown complained about the Philadelphia Eagles passing offense. It's a Philly fracture. Veteran Eagles defensive lineman Brandon Graham had some things to say about the issue between Hurts and Brown. We are advancing the Philly fracture, keeping the Chicago Bears absolutely in focus from one eye, and the National Football Conference and some of the better foes out of the other eye. Brandon Graham on WIP Radio. The person that's complaining needs to be accountable. Brandon Graham said of A.J. Brown, who complained after Sunday's game about Philadelphia's passing game or lack thereof. Quote, BG, this is a super well-respected team leader for the Philadelphia Eagles, bona fide team leader. I'm just being honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he knows this. I don't know the whole story, but I know that Hurts is trying, and I mean, Brown could do a little better with how he responds to things, and they were friends before this. Oh! And they were friends before this. It's like, man, but things have changed, and I understand that because life happens, but it's the business side that we have to make sure we don't let the personal get in the way of the business, and that's what we got to do. We got to be better as of right now because we know it's the issue. Everybody's saying some things, but we need to be able to talk things out as men. You know what I'm saying? But we need to let personal stuff go. We need to let personal stuff go, he says. And let's get right for the game because, man, it's like most of the time it's just a conversation that needs to be had. But the person with the problem got to want to talk to the person other than others. That's all I'm saying. Brandon Graham on the Philly fracture, ladies and gentlemen. The fracture was advanced yesterday from super well-respected veteran Brandon Graham. And Brandon Graham knows exactly what he's doing here. And he's doing this because he knows he's respected enough to walk into that locker room Wednesday and not care about what Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and or Devontae Smith are thinking about the situation. Why? Because Brandon Graham got that coveted Super Bowl ring and he's the team leader. This is the definition of leadership, in my estimation. When it looks like he's talking behind backs, it's actually the adult squaring away the room because he knows he doesn't have much time left.
Yeah.
And he knows this is a good football team, and he knows that there are those of the childish ilk. Messrs. Hurts, Brown, and Smith played the kindergarten card, and Brandon Graham wants to be the adult here, so we went over the top on the flamethrower WIP, and it's going to go one of two ways. It's either the Philly fracture is steamrolling and can't stop, or he broke the ice. And maybe Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown once again can become friends. That's your update on the Philly fracture from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Good morning. Fair to say, as we go here, if one does not prefer to discuss or guess the future of Sam Darnold, the hottest quarterback in the National Football League, then I guess discussing the Minnesota Vikings Super Bowl chances, that's off the table too, right? Fair assumption, right? I mean, like, how about if we were going to play a talk back today for the head coach, Kevin O'Connell joins at 11 o'clock. How about a Tuesday talk back for KO? That's like, quote, now that it's clear you guys are back to handling teams, coach, would it now officially be a disappointment if we didn't make it to the Super Bowl? End quote. Yours truly has no interest in setting Super Bowl pairings other than it's somebody versus Kansas City. Nordo, any interest in chatting Minnesota Vikings and potential Super Bowl pairings and like casting the gaze to early February and making a bold proclamation? And good morning.
Good morning. Not interested in Super Bowl proclamations or matchups or pairings at all at this point. I'm focused on the Philly fracture. You got a guy in Brandon Graham who's on freaking IR, and he knows his career is at the bitter end, and he's rolling on to big time, big spot radio.
Right at the end.
Sitting next to Merrill Reese and going, come on, you needed somebody to be an adult in the room to pull this thing back on the train tracks. I'm thinking about the defensive injuries that we have seen and how they're handling it in Detroit. I'm focused on at some point another matchup with the nasty neighbors to the east in Green Bay, bringing them to our building, hopefully sweeping them. And I'm focused on a fracture of a different kind. This team in Chicago that's going to be here under the bright lights on Monday night and putting an absolute beat down on them and using this lopsided momentum and 5 TDs and all those yards from Sam and how that's going to translate through the final stretch of this season. The idea of looking ahead to the Super Bowl, it's fun, trust me, and at points throughout the day I'm kind of checking, okay, what is FanDuel? It's 16-1 right now. Super Bowl odds. The Vikings.
It's a dirty talker.
Ooh, it's an absolute dirty talker. But for right now, again, it's the day by day fascination for me. And it's limping into it in some ways, I think. It's like, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
But this thing is shaping out where, in again, another year of a very muddy NFC, you're looking at the Lions and you're looking at the Eagles and you're paying attention to those Packers, even though they're technically in your rearview mirror right now, and you're focused on your team. That is the hierarchy of the NFC right now. The Vikings are so much in the thick of things, but they still have business to handle. So ride the high off the victory over Kirk and the Birds. They're trying to figure out, Raheem Morris is trying to politely say, Kirk is still our quarterback down in ATL. That's what they're dealing with down there. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about early February. I care about this next week and getting a W over the Bears. And week by week, go Bills. Week by week, go Niners in the Bay hosting the Kitties. Week by week, how this thing shapes up as we kind of get to do the reset every Monday, hopefully after a W, and then reassess what January is going to look like for the Vikings, who at 11-2. I can't talk about early February yet. I can talk about mid-January, though, PA. This is a playoff team. That's how awesome this situation is right now. There is still a legitimate fight for the NFC North. No, I'm not into NFC to Super Bowl pairings at this point. I still lean your way. I still think it's the Chiefs. They can win however the heck they want to. They're trained. They've been here. They've done all of that multiple times. So whoever ends up through the NFC, we have a significant say in the fight at 11-2.
Yeah.
And based on what we saw, at least in recency, the quarterback of our favorite team has a lot to say about that.
We have a stark change to an opinion from a heavy hitter in the National Football League as the metaphorical informational bullets continue to fire at the 9 to noon cast. And good morning. Tomorrow, 9:40, assumedly, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, joins 9 to noon. And it was PFT, we early in the season, who had some rather pointed comments about Minnesota Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold and getting over the hump and winning more than a wild card game. And now there was a tweet that actually I just saw, and it's about a day old. At Pro Football Talk, Mike writes, if Jared Goff is an MVP candidate, Sam Darnold should be too.
It's happened.
I mean,
it's happening.
Let's make the murmur on our own. Ready? After should be 2, 3-2. Sam Darnold should be 2. Better than average, huh? Darnold has more yards and touchdowns, and Goff's full season passer rating is only 1 point higher, 109.1 to 108.1.
Yep.
If Jared Goff is an MVP candidate, Sam Darnold should be too. Sam the Man on the Fan, Mike Florio on the Fan tomorrow. Man, we got a lot of metaphorical informational bullets flying at us right now, from the Philly fracture to opinion flips and things like that. Nick Vigil blocking punts only to have his team take an L.
Well, I think Florio, though, for the most part, handled it pretty well. And he was mostly pragmatic about it early in the season. And he didn't unveil anything. We've all struggled with it, the idea of previous stops and what that looked like, what this could potentially be if you truly believe in the coach's scheme and his ability to develop quarterbacks. I mean, there's been a broad spectrum of this, from Charch crying in the hills of Colorado the day after the Vikings acquired Sam Darnold, and then now in December seeing the change of his face, the change of his mind.
Got a face change.
Then the more pragmatic but still skeptical Florio's, always the skeptical one, Florio, finding his way there over the course of the last few months. And then there's just rubes like us. They're just like, if this thing works out, it's going to be sweet. And here they are at 11-2. It's a beautiful thing.
Philly fracture. And finally, courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon today includes, indeed, Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, joining us for the recording of X's and O's on the vast and ever-expanding KFAN Minnesota Vikings or radio network. He is preceded by The Scribe from the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com, and he is preceded by Star Tribune cohort and columnist Lavelle E. Neal III. He'll join 9 to noon around the corner. Hit me with some topics for Lavelle. What's working on your mind for Lavelle E. Neal III? I know we got the Bears.
Yeah.
I know we got Allery's with free wild shuttles. We probably have Juan Soto. Anything else?
Well, the Juan Soto thing is actually top of mind for me because it just hits me with 20, I know he's only 26, but a 15-year deal. And
Juan Soto's only 26.
He's 26.
Feels like he was with the Padres for 10 years. Damn.
And so what the Shohei Ohtani deal did for the Dodgers, that ultimately in some ways led you down a road of what you're seeing with Juan Soto. Super interested in that. Maybe I'll pop in a question like, hey, this Twins ownership thing, like what's happening with that? I'm super curious. Changes galore at Target Field. His opinion on the Vikings and these potentially quitting Bears and what that looks like on Monday. And it's always potpourri with Lavelle. He's going to come in. He's going to explain the trials and tribulations of his experience getting through security. He's got his book coming out. He's got 10 copies in the trunk of his car if you see him on the street outside Allery's. The place most people see him in public. So there's plenty to talk about, certainly, with Wobble Wobble.
And he is the columnist, and he will join 9 to noon on a Tuesday from the Minnesota Vikings facility. This is our Tuesday home, unless we are attempting, with the assistance from listeners and the Marine Corps, to better the lives of tots, or Christmas Eve. I'm not sure if we're going to be here Christmas Eve, but if Kevin O'Connell wants to do that 11 piece, then we will be here on Christmas Eve. We love it here. We love Soukup, and we love Soukup.com, providers of Tuesdays 9 to noon. And when we return, Lavelle Neal III assumedly will join the 9 to noon cast from TCOPC. Yeah, we. Max Fuller produces at 651 Carpet Plus Studios and FM 100.3 KFAN. Good morning.
Tune in to 9 to noon every Tuesday as PA and Nordo broadcast live from TCO to talk all things purple. TCO Tuesdays are powered by Soukup Manufacturing.
comes the columnist, Lavelle Neal III at Lavelle Neal via the X machine, and he writes for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com. Lavelle's segmenta are courtesy of Allery's Bar and Barbecue, the home to free parking and wild shuttles.
First place wild shuttles.
First place wild shuttles. Not sure if the Wild play before Thursday. Quite possibly do.
Play Utah tonight.
We got a game at Utah tonight, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Right. We have a Vox in the Box on Thursday with Vegas in town. So the Allery's Bar and Barbecue, home to free parking and wild shuttles, will come in very handy on Thursday, right? And good morning.
Yeah, well, definitely pre-game and post-game crowd, man. It's pretty good for Wild games, especially now with the team rolling. It's got, I don't know if it's still number one in points in the league or not. But man.
As of yesterday, they were tied with both the Jets in the division and then the Washington Capitals. With
Nordo
40
said
points.
we had a three-piece tie yesterday, and I believe it's still accurate.
Okay, yeah, so the Wild are getting their puck on right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, what does getting your puck on mean?
It means they're playing the best hockey in the league. That means Gustafsson continues to stand on his head.
You're an elite hockey mind.
Kaprizov was on pace for, 132 points?
Yeah, you're Stan Mikita / Phil Esposito raised, which makes you an elite.
Keith Magnuson.
And Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Duncan Keith. And who was the goaltender? Who was
Crawford.
Corey Crawford. Holy cow.
Son of a Bickle.
Yeah, you're a son of a Bickle. That's right. You being an elite hockey mind, what do you think fuels the Minnesota Wild to having all these points outside of Kirill Kaprizov? That would be the low-hanging fruit. One of the better players in the National Hockey League. But just overall, what fuels this hockey team? And good morning.
Well, yeah, just a couple things. I mean, first of all, the young core continues to get experience. Matt Boldy taking another step forward. Faber already among the elite defensemen in the league.
Rossi
raising his game. He raised his game last year, and he's taken another step this year. I think he's going to double his point total from a year ago. So I think that young core emerging, and some of the veteran guys have rediscovered their game, and that's something that Bill Guerin challenged them to during the offseason. I think it also has mattered because John Hines has had his first real preseason training camp because he came in the middle of last year to replace Dean Evison. And I think he was able to drill down on the finer points of the game and the details that he wanted the team to look out for on the ice.
He's talked about that a couple of times, too, like how important and vital training camp is for him. And you talked about it when we hung out last week. You kind of got that vibe that this was no cakewalk, that this wasn't just a cute little ushering into the season, that this was a bit of a grind for those guys.
Yeah, Paul, I was talking to a couple of players, and they're like, man, Hines is working our butts off, man. This camp is hard as heck, you know. And I was in the locker room. I was at the practice facility a couple days before they opened there. I was talking to Zuccarello, and he was like, well, I play for Tortorella, so I'm kind of used to this. And I made the mistake by mentioning it to Hines. Hines says, oh, so Zook thinks that Torts' camp is rougher than mine?
Really?
Oh, what do you see? Wait until he sees the next practice.
We could change that.
I know. I was like, oh, boy, I put my foot in my mouth, foot in my mouth there.
All right, 3-2.
So...
when you were growing up on the south side of Chicago, let's go back to, say, I don't know, your late teens, like when you really, or early 20s, whatever, when you were really, really, really the formative years of sports, before you started writing. Was it the Kansas City Star?
Yeah, I started there.
Yeah.
I did it.
You covered the Royals, right?
For 2 years, I was a stringer for the Daily Southtown, which at the time was called the Southtown Economist, a suburban Chicago newspaper.
Yeah.
So I actually met a bunch of guys who are still writing for the Sun-Times and Tribune today.
Yeah.
Covering high school football games on the sidelines. And then I went to Kansas City as an intern for 4 months and got hired full-time at the end of the internship.
There you go.
Which... that doesn't always happen. I was supposed to go to a paper in Belleville, Illinois for 4 months, and then I was supposed to go to a paper in Albany, Oregon, right, for 4 months.
That's like a newspaper G League.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 3 newspapers, 4 months apiece, 1 year internship. And fortunately, one of the high school writers got proposed to right when I was getting ready to leave for Belleville. And she was like, my fiance said, I don't have to work anymore. So I don't. I'm out. and there was an opening. Right. That's how I got started. Right place, right time.
Well, the point here, and I may get stuck at number 2, but, with all those teams, and we'll eliminate the college game, with all those pro teams, I want to see how far down the list I can get from your heart, like who you loved most and why. Which team mattered most and why? Are you ready? Bears number 1. Bears were number 1 with Baby Wobble.
2.
Oh, damn, I missed one? Hold on. White Sox?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Absolutely.
Ron Karkovice, Greg Luzinski, this butt.
Before that, 1972, Dick Allen, AL MVP.
Yeah.
He was my first sports hero.
What about Thad Bosley?
That was after that.
Yeah.
So it's funny because Dick Allen just got voted in by the Veterans Committee to the Hall of Fame. So I've been thinking about that this week as the winter meetings go on down in Dallas, Texas. So, yeah, it was White Sox first.
White Sox first. In White Sox south side of Chicago, right?
Correct.
Right by Hawthorne Racecourse.
35th in the highway, 35th Street.
Yeah, isn't Hawthorne located south side of Chicago?
South.
Or is that Balmoral?
Balmoral, south suburbs.
Yes.
They're in Crete.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Now, so it was Comiskey. Now, were you, I believe you were alive, but how well do you remember the doubleheader at Comiskey where between games they blew up a bunch of disco records? And then I'm not sure if they could play the second game. Did they play the second game?
I don't think they did. Disco Demolition Night.
That's what it was.
I watched it at home.
Yeah, they just got tired of John Travolta and the Bee Gees and Staying Alive and Night Fever, and they had Disco Demolition Night, blew up tens of thousands or thousands of 45s and 72s of disco, the Tramps, Disco Inferno, just the whole thing. They blew the whole thing up.
Fans stormed the field.
And they ruined the field.
Yeah, because a bunch of punk rockers thought it was great that disco was getting demolished, and they showed up to watch the bit. So
Here comes a Mohawk guy chasing after Thad Bosley.
No, exactly. Guy with a Mohawk. Guys with Mohawks on were running onto the field, and they were playing the Detroit Tigers, and Sparky Anderson's out there squaring up a storm. Look at this field. We can't play on this field.
Mark the Bird Fidrich was tripping out.
Yeah. That was Mike Veck's great creation there.
Right. Okay.
Were the White Sox good in the 70s? Like, I'm picturing, I think Cott was there. Was there Fisk? I'm trying to think, who
Fisk was 83. Cott was there. The White Sox were in hell in 1970. It was rock bottom baseball.
Damn.
And then they hired Chuck Tanner, and they traded for Dick Allen. Actually, it was Tommy John.
What year was that?
72.
So that was before Chuck Tanner won a World Series with the Buccos.
Correct.
Damn.
It was
didn't know that.
The White Sox traded Tommy John to the Dodgers for Dick Allen, I believe.
Okay. Wow.
And that started the revival. And it was Dick Allen at first, Bill Melton at third, Brian Downing was the catcher.
Oh yeah. Brian Downing was the catcher for the California Angels when I moved to Southern California.
They also had a very young Terry Forster and a young Goose Gossage.
Wow.
On the pitching staff.
Yeah.
So, that was my squad, man.
Goose Gossage, New York Yankees.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, some of the names from those Yankee squads are some of the names from back then, like Pete Rose. And I mean, you remember Saturdays, and we would have Twib notes this week in baseball with Mel Allen. And then I swear the game, the game every single week that you had was Reds Dodgers.
Yeah.
Remember how often Reds Dodgers was on TV middle of the day? And then you'd wait for the next day, and you would have football on CBS and NBC. So the game you got in the afternoon would be Pat Summerall with Tom Brookshire, and then in the afternoon you would either get Kurt Gowdy or Dick Enberg doing the NBC game, generally from San Diego or Oakland. Remember that?
Remember when
that was fun.
Monday Night Baseball started a little bit after that too.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think a young Al Michaels, right?
Yep. And Howard Cosell might have been his analyst.
Correct.
Right. Howard Cosell was his analyst.
Yep.
And on Monday Night Football, former Giant stud running back Frank Gifford was the play-by-play voice, and the analysts were Cosell and Dandy
Don Meredith.
Yeah, Dandy Don Meredith.
Turn out the lights.
Yeah, that used to be the bit of all bits in sports when a game would be over, and he would sing, "Turn out the lights, the party's over."
Yeah.
Everybody loved that.
Gary, take me back to that's 50 years ago, man.
So White Sox 1, Bears 2, Blackhawks 3.
Bulls were 3 and Blackhawks were 4.
Bulls 3, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what is that, Dick Van Arsdale? Artis Gilmore?
No, earlier than that, it was Bob Love, Chet Walker, Jerry Sloan, Norm Van Leer.
Jerry Sloan was a badass.
I believe Tom Borwinkle was the center. Jim Hard. Actually, one of my mother's friends was marrying the backup center. His name was Jimard, and she actually brought him to our house. That
Wow.
was the tallest guy had ever seen in my life.
For Thanksgiving and turducken made by your sister Leslie?
No. This is pre-turducken, Leslie being old enough to cook.
How hard was it to watch games in those days? Because I remember until, and PA's talked about it, like living out in L.A., he lived there at the time where the Lakers really kind of, in some ways, I think were a big aspect of putting the NBA on the map.
Big time.
But I'm thinking about the 70s, and I know Chicago, big market, and even, if I remember correctly, you can tell me if I'm wrong, the Bulls actually were pretty damn good when they came onto the NBA scene, but in the same sense, like trying to watch a live game, when was it televised? Was it taped? Like, it had to have been hard to be a fan in the early days.
He ain't lying.
Yeah, but, then, listen to games on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, Jim Durham was
Big
like the
time.
soundtrack of my youth.
Yep. Vin Scully, Chick Hearn,
come on.
King's play-by-play voice, Bob Miller. Yeah, those were like the voices. Frank Herzog, who called Washington Bullets games on 1500 WTOP. Yeah, those were the voice. I mean, it's laying in bed and listening to full games. Because you had to go to school and everything. That was life back then.
But I mean, Jim Durham's voice just...
Is that WGN back in the day?
Long jumper by Cal Macy. It's in. Cal Macy hits one from Waukegan. And the Bulls take timeout. Trailblazers, timeout.
Well, you know who the radio play-by-play voice was for the Chicago Bears in that 85 Bears team? Do you?
McConnell, right?
No.
Not Larrabee.
Very early in his career.
Dagger.
And there is your Super Bowl dagger.
Don't forget.
How about the dagger calling the 85 Bears? And he called Bulls games on TV.
I got to make sure. Larrabee, just like Joe McConnell? They both worked for the Bears and the Packers at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Not at the same time, but it was weird how they moved from one team to another.
Right.
So I think Joe McConnell may have been before Larrabee. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was thinking. So, but watching Bears in the early 70s, I mean, the only reason is that's how I learned swear words, because I was sitting with my father watching the Bears play, and Abe Gibran was the head coach, and they were just getting routed, with Bobby Douglas running for his life.
Yeah.
And listen to my dad throw expletives at the television going, wow.
And off what Nordo said, well, the TV options had increased by the time the 85 Bears rolled around. So I was first year Pasadena City College, I believe, which would have been 85. Mm-hmm. Or either that or senior year in high school when ESPN popped. And Chris Berman and Dan Patrick and Rich Eisen and all the cats, Stuart Scott, who started it. Do you remember when ESPN popped in the mid-'80s and then MTV after that?
MTV.
With Martha Quinn, though?
Downtown Julie Brown.
That Downtown Julie Brown with the English accent.
Yeah, freshman year at Illinois, I saw the Police in concert at Assembly Hall.
Wow.
And Martha Walsh from MTV was the host.
Wow.
UB40 opened for the Police. Mm-hmm. It was awesome.
But the 85 Bears, you were in Chicago then, right?
I was a sophomore at the University of Illinois.
All right, so
living off-campus apartment.
Yep, so you're in Champaign.
Yeah. Oh, you were doing the shuffle.
Leslie Frazier was one of the corners. We had the Super Bowl shuffle, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But that season, it was one of the most unbelievable. It's like the 46 defense. All right, Buddy Ryan's 46 defense. It's like nobody had ever run it in the history of football, even though teams had run it.
Right.
It's what he did with it, because he had those corners in, was it Dave Duerson, Jeff Fisher, and Leslie Frazier? Those were the top three.
And Gary Fensick was a safety.
That was the bit.
Dave Duerson.
They could mess around with their corners at the line long enough to get Dent, Marshall, and the rest of the cats, McMichael rushing well in there. But Fensick and Plank were the key. The safeties were the key to that thing, man.
Yeah, they had some big call automatic zone read where if they saw a certain formation that they knew who was going to attack from what quadrant of the field.
Yeah.
And it was just game on after that. So as long as they were able to see formations and know what was coming at them, the dogs were running off the porch all the time, man.
See, here with the 2024 Minnesota Vikings, certainly did not compare them to the 85 Bears, one of the greatest defense in the history of the NFL, in my estimation. But not to draw a comparison like team for team. However, there was a stage in the season where I started to think it a little bit, didn't bring it up on the radio, chatted with some people about it, and it wasn't like Ditka and Buddy Ryan, okay? Now, things kind of got wonky between those two. Correct me if I'm wrong. When Buddy Ryan got carried off the field after winning the Super Bowl.
There's two piles.
So Ditka got elevated too, right? Right.
Yep.
And so did Buddy Ryan, and I don't think Mike liked that too much. Like Walter Payton, from what I understand, God rest his soul, hated Refrigerator Perry getting that touchdown in the Super Bowl, right?
He did not like that moment there. He was not happy with Ditka. And Ditka has regretted that.
Really?
He said he should have given the ball to Payton.
Okay.
Yep.
But like Ditka and Buddy Ryan was a thing, because the defense was the identity of the team led by Buddy Ryan, but Ditka was the head coach, and Buddy Ryan was getting a lot of credit, and a lot of praise, and a lot of interviews and things like that. He went on to become head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and it didn't work that well.
Correct.
What I was saying was here is you have O'Connell is identifiable with the offense. Flores is identifiable with the defense. So
it's a little more of this, though, with these guys.
Yes, it has a little more cohesiveness because there wasn't a ton of cohesiveness between Ditka and Ryan. They coexisted and won a Super Bowl together. So there's no Ditka Ryan here with those two.
Buddy Ryan didn't want Fridge Perry. That was a Mike Ditka call there. He drafted Perry.
Really? Refrigerator Perry was drafted.
Yes.
Oh, he was a hell of a defensive tackle. What, at Georgia?
Clemson, I believe.
Clemson, yeah.
Yeah, could dunk a basketball.
Yeah.
Any way you want it. And,
right.
But yeah, the resentment was going even to the kicker. Like Ditka drafted Kevin Butler to be the kicker.
Right, butthead.
And Butler's walking through Lake Forest, Hallis Hall, and he runs into Buddy Ryan. And he was like, hey, this is our new kicker, Kevin Butler, buddy. Buddy goes, oh yeah, wasted draft pick. And they kept walking. Stuff like that was
Butler kicked to Georgia.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, so think of then. And then think of moving up to, when you get the big trade where you get DJ Moore and they get Bryce Young and the whole thing. And then you draft Caleb Williams and how you felt into the season compared to how you feel now. And now maybe you feel now with your beloved Bears, maybe it's better than when Eberflus was the head coach. However, I didn't get a chance to see the game this weekend against the Niners, so therefore I'm just doing a little box score chasing here. I think at halftime, the Niners had 14 first downs, the Bears had 1. I mean, that might be true. So, I mean, it got worse when Eberflus left. And good morning.
At halftime, I believe the 49ers had 319 yards of offense, and the Bears have 4.
What?
Yeah.
4. Yeah.
There was a great quote from Caleb Williams. We didn't get a chance to use it yesterday, but he's like, we got our asses handed to us.
It's tough
like
winning on the road.
Pasted in the wall.
You know what? It's tough moving the ball on the road.
He sounded as defeated as I've heard him at any point. Yeah, brutal.
The one thing about Eberflus is that he does have the defensive coordinator chops, and he would call a representative game. Kyle Shanahan against Eric Washington was just a ridiculous mismatch. And
so Washington's the defensive coordinator, but Eberflus called the defense, right?
Right, correct. And now he's gone. There. So, like on Sunday, Bears linebackers are getting caught with the eye candy and the motion going on in the backfield.
Oh, wow.
With, faking runs and having guys in motion.
Sounds like they were getting caught with the eye candy Saturday night out the Bay Area way, not paying attention to the game on Sunday.
Little Haight-Ashbury bits, huh? Yeah. So
might be the tenderloin.
So that's something to look for. Look ahead here. Brian Flores now and Kevin O'Connell against Eric Washington on Monday night here at.
What's happening up there? 2 blocks. Anyway, go ahead. So Eric Washington, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, that's something that I think a lot of the bits from a couple weeks ago are still in play. You could run the ball on the Bears. You could pick on Stevenson, the cornerback.
You can pick on Johnson, the cornerback. Just kidding. Well, no, I'm not kidding, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Are they still beat up? Was it Brisker that was missing with the elongated concussion-related problems? And
he can be designated to return to practice this week.
He can, okay.
Whether that happens or not, we're not sure, but he hasn't played in like 6-7 weeks. There's going to be a conditioning issue. Even if he's ready to play, he's going to probably be on the snap count.
Yeah. You got all your draft picks next year?
Yeah, we
just keep losing.
We've got one more. We got one more Carolina pick. We still have a 2nd round pick for Carolina.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, just keep losing.
Yeah. God.
I mean, seriously.
I was hoping for 9 wins, maybe 10, and just to be in the conversation.
Right.
But this is horrible.
Yeah.
But it reminds me that It's been 40 years since the 85 Bears. All right. So we're going on a second generation of Bears fans who have no idea what it's like to win a Super Bowl.
But they're Chicago pro sports fans, so they got Patty Kane and Jonathan Taves, and they had MJ. I mean, the Cubs didn't win a World Series.
Cubs did win a World Series.
Hartman year they won?
2016 they won.
2016 it was over Cleveland.
Oh, gee.
Remember Jason
We have everything. We have nothing. Stop whining.
White Sox won a World Series as well, right? 05, 06-ish?
Yeah, with AJ.
There you go.
Oh, Pierzynski.
So you got 6 NBA titles.
Thank you.
You have 3 Stanley Cups.
Thank you.
You have each baseball team.
Well, you got more
World
Stanley
Series.
Cups than that if you want to get back to the oldest of the old school. But anyway,
Yeah, there you go. Right, and so original 6 though.
yeah.
So there's not a lot of crying. I'm still stuck on
Keep losing.
I can't believe. So for me as younger, right? In 85, I'm still in diapers.
You're the Jordan era.
I did not know that there was consternation that Sweetness did not score in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
You guys hit me with that. I've spent the last 10 minutes thinking about
It's
it.
negative, but
The refrigerator Perry bit is iconic from my standpoint. Growing up watching NFL films.
Yeah.
You didn't get Walter Payton into the end zone in a 46-10 beatdown?
In the Super Bowl.
That is egregious.
I know.
I'm just learning that now. I'm sorry.
Wait, he didn't score the whole game?
He didn't score the whole game, I
Of
don't
all
think.
those 46, we had no sweetness?
No sweetness.
You bastards.
I know.
But you got the cute little trick with Refrigerator Perry. That's great.
The thing had gotten out of control because, Doug could put Perry in the backfield because he got mad because the year before when he lost 23-0 in the NFC Championship, Bill Walsh had Guy McIntyre line up as a fullback and run over his people.
Yeah.
So Dick couldn't wait to have his own big boy in the backfield.
Well, great. Then why are all of you fraudulent Bears fans
Why are we fraudulent?
frustrated and mad at Eberflus for using Doug Kramer? I mean, they were hearkening to the Refrigerator Perry McIntyre days.
The premise was, hey, didn't you say you played some fullback your freshman year in high school? Yes, I did. Okay, we're going to drop a play.
Yeah.
That's how that started.
In the second half, in a tight game that you had to win on the road against Daniels.
Yeah, the football that decision may have changed the season. Everything has gone pear-shaped since then.
That's Lavelle Neal III, who, by the way, has a book that you can buy for this Christmas season and to be a wonderful gift. More on that around the corner when we return to the Minnesota Vikings practice facility on a Tuesday, provided by Sukup and Sukup.com. You're listening to 9 to Noon.
Join the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, out at Hy-Vee at New Hope today. Stop by from 5 to 6 p.m. to meet PA and Vikings running back Ty Chandler, thanks to Hy-Vee and Pepsi, plus a live Q&A event to follow. Get the full details right now at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
What'd you think of the Juan Soto to the Metropolitans move?
Yeah, I'm writing about that for Thursday's paper. I want all this to come to a head in Major League Baseball with these ridiculous contracts, and that's just the latest one. I want more because I want the owners to realize that you cannot have one team have a payroll $200 million more than another team, because that's the way it was last year with the Mets and the Oakland A's. This is the only sport you have to worry about small market and large market existence, and it needs to be addressed now. But
how is that addressed then?
Because so you're a masochist here.
Yeah.
You just wanted to get so bad, so fat, so awful that it pops.
Here's a bit too,
right,
Nordo. Yeah. Here's a bit. Baseball teams do not share their local television revenue. And if they just took a page from the NFL and have everybody put their TV revenue in one pot and split it equally, that would drag down the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets, and it would prop up the Tampa Bay Rays
and the Padres
and the Oakland. Well, the Padres have been, they've been. Well, that owner was trying to win while he was still smelling the roses. I did not care, and you only get one of those types of owners every now and then. Yeah. And now he's passed away, and now they've been trying to cut payroll ever since.
So I think the
Croc.
Peter Seidel.
Oh, Peter Seidel.
Yeah.
So in some ways, the argument would be, if you're the Yankees and you have Yes Network, what is my incentive to really cultivate and build and maximize Yes Network if a significant portion of my revenue is being divvied out to other teams? The other side of that argument then is the fact that, well, we have dwindling ratings across the league. So at some point that's going to cause a precipitous or gradual fall off even on Yes Network. If the Yankees, it's great that you're in the mix all the time, but if viewership and merchandise and the consumption of the product continues to dwindle,
correct,
well, then the money that you're getting from Yes Network is going to be neutralized anyway. So are those real conversations that are taking place? Because I'm with you. The disparity is awful.
It's starting to happen now. This whole local TV package thing with Diamond Sports going under, that's kind of kickstarted these negotiations. And Rob Manfred, when he's not trying to come up with stupid stuff like the golden at bat rule, they need to talk to the Yankees and the Dodgers and say, look, this is for the greater good of the game.
Yeah.
And start moving people in that direction. And I think it's going to happen here in the coming years. If you notice now, all these new TV contracts that are being signed, they're all expiring in 2028. And I think that's when the league I think the league will have 2/3, 20 of the 30 teams will be under the league purview when it comes to streaming rights and streaming ability. And I think that's when you're going to see economic change in the terms of sharing all your local revenues and trying to even out the playing field.
Yeah, I'm curious. We look at it as fans like I'm just watching a bunch of billionaires trying to figure out how to move pennies here and pennies there. I mean, in the form of millions and millions
deferred
and millions
money.
of dollars. Yeah. Basically, they're investing Shohei's contract cash so that by the time they actually have to pay him, they've probably doubled that money anyway. Mm-hmm. They're probably going to make money off of that contract on Shohei,
right?
Just in the liquid value of it. But so, is this the element of streaming? That feels like that's a little bit of a catalyst too, because that was a fight. What was it? The Diamondbacks, and you're just trying to do the math on subscription stuff straight through the league.
Correct.
And it's like, whatever it was, 30 or 40 or 50, whatever the Twins have been able to scratch and claw their way through deals with Bally/Diamond, et cetera, that this was like $5 or $10 million that teams like the Diamondbacks were getting from these streaming deals. Mm-hmm. That catalyst has to pop at some point as well, because the owners are going here. Yeah, we're happy for you in the Empire State, but we're over here just begging people to pay $100 for a season pass. That has to be part of that conversation too.
Now we're going to have some turbulence here because the CBA, I believe, expires in 2026. So I'm pretty sure the owners are going to approach Players Association with some economic changes that they may not like. They don't have to say the word salary cap. Of course, that's a non-starter with Scott Boras and all these other guys. But there's other ways they can get the Players Association to understand that we got to make some changes here because, like I say, Oakland had like a payroll under $100 million last year. How do you function like that?
Well, but okay. So how much of it is specifically to the Oakland case? They're trying to move. Like, I mean, what is the onus on the owners in some of these cases? Because I think, like, as a fan, if I'm going to A's games and there's, friends and family night basically every game because there's only 2,000 people in this stadium, you know that the team is efforting to move to Las Vegas, so you have it in your head that they're going to move, they're going to get all the help and the support they want. They're abandoning this long-held community in Oakland and this fan base. They're intentionally drilling down the product, and because their investment is all in the 702, like, the Oakland A's are a great example in terms of the disparity, but I think it's unique in the fact that they've absolutely just flipped the double bird to the fan base, and they're like, we don't want to be here. The city's not forking over, $500 million in tax money for a new stadium, so we're going to go to the 702 and we're investing nothing in that product. As a league, Manfred and everybody should be absolutely excoriating those guys in Oakland for what they've been doing the last 2-3 years.
Nice word.
Technically, they're moving to a smaller market. I believe the Vegas market's smaller than Oakland, right?
Definitely Bay Area, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So they're moving to a smaller market, which inherently would mean less money when it comes to the TV. I mean, they're going down in hopes to go up.
Let's see. I want to see how baseball's going to work in Vegas on a daily basis. It's great when it's like NBA or hockey or football, They just cleared a couple of hurdles, though. That $1.7 billion stadium is on track.
No, it's done.
And the other thing, too, Nordo, they are trying to build up so when they get to Las Vegas, they'll be in a more of a competitive mode because they just signed Luis Severino to a free agent contract, which is like a record contract for them. You know, and
They gave a record contract to Luis Severino.
Oakland A's record, not baseball.
No, but really,
yeah,
damn.
Didn't he have an arm injury in recent years?
He did, but
it's a bad one.
He rebounded. He rebounded. Yes, this past season he had a solid year. So,
Okay.
so I think he's getting $26 million a year, something like that. So
It's like if I win a jackpot at Binion's, I'm going to get a 4-pack of tickets to an A's game in the next couple of years.
well, it's just traffic in Vegas already, and you have a baseball stadium in the middle of that bit. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, but I mean, it's such a transit town. Transient town that so many, they're going to be counting on the whales from the hotels, kind of like Allegiant, stuff like that. And because this thing has been delayed so much, from what I read over the weekend, or maybe within the last couple of weeks, I think it's up 127 million. like they settled in on $1. And then now it's like $2.27 because of how long it's taken to
inflation
inflation,
right.
Exactly. And because of things they've added along the way to this ballpark, which is going to be by Mandalay Bay. Infrastructure, but including not heated seats, cooling mechanisms.
That's right.
With the seats.
Yeah.
All seats are going to have cooling mechanisms because it gets so hot there in the summer.
Come on.
Yeah, that's why it's going to be $1.7 billion.
So you get the $9.99 steak and lobster at Binion's after you look at 3 7s. That gets you 4 seats to a Las Vegas Athletics game, but at least your seats are cooled. Okay. I mean, holy cow. All right. Your book.
Yes, sir.
Name of it, where people can purchase it, and why this book should be given as a stocking stuffer or a gift this Christmas season.
I appreciate that because people started asking me, and they're coming up, they're running out of gift ideas for their loved ones, and they wanted to know if the book was still available. And yes, it is. You can go on Amazon.com and purchase it. You can go on Barnes & Noble website and purchase it.
Name of it?
Franchise.
Thank you.
Curated History of the Minnesota Twins, written by yours truly. A lot of local booksellers also have it on stock as well. So I have books in my car. I have a book signing coming up on December 21st at the Bloomington Armory. I guess the Bloomington Armory has like a card show like monthly or every 2 months. So it's memorabilia card shows. So I'm gonna have a table. I'm gonna be selling and autographing the Twins book. So if you're running out of ideas for Christmas presents, I could be your solution.
And people can tweet you at Lavelle Neal if they want more information, right?
Correct. I actually have links stored. I have it pinned to my X account.
Excellent.
Where you can click on and purchase the book.
Appreciate you. Bless you, my man, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Lavelle Neal III at Lavelle Neal via Twitter, and that's courtesy of Valerie's Bar and Barbecue, home of free parking and wild shuttles. The Scribe analyzes Vikings football around the corner on KFAN.